Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for sticking with us. That short 5-minute break there has hopefully resolved all of the tech issues that we have. Reminder, we are going into our second match of the day between Split and Moonveil. That is Koza and Killian. Seed 2 going up against Moonveil, Divino and Epos. So we are in pick ban phase. First pick from Split is It's Soccer Not Football. Seems to be a popular one. Flower of the Ground then picked by Moonveil. Second pick from Moonveil coming up.
Yep. Not sure what they're going to go for. I feel like in Split's position, you try and pick... okay, that isn't what I expected. In Split's position, you try and pick some maps that you think are going to throw off your opponents. I'm not shocked to see Soccer Not Football and Peak coming out from them. Wildfire is an interesting one. That's caused a lot of players a lot of issues. So, you know, we saw Geese Can Fly looking kind of dodgy on there, so maybe that's their logic. Get some experience on it themselves so that they can feel good about picking it against Geese Can Fly. We'll have to see.
Yeah, Split picking arguably the two hardest maps there. Maybe they just know that, you know, they're going to be beaten if they pick Perfect Blue. And ultimately, they've just gone for the map that potentially everyone will struggle on, and hopefully that they can then struggle on less. So that is going to be the order of the show. Are we going to get to even a map 4 is the question. It could be a 3-0, as we say, if just Epos just disappears off into the distance, as a lot of people would expect him to. I haven't really seen him have that many shaky days, you know?
No,
he rarely has an off day.
As players go, he's got to have one of the best mentals in the business.
For sure.
His ability to act like a serious match is so trivial is always entertaining to watch, but also impressive, because you can tell him that absolutely nothing matters, or that there's £5,000 on the line, and he will play exactly the same in either match, it feels like. So I reckon, you know, it's not like any pressure of being on stage will get to him either. He's played several lands. He's won several lands at this point. He's played in the World Cup multiple times. He'll certainly be sitting up there feeling most comfortable of any player, I reckon.
And what of the experience of Killian and Koza? I know you've been to more LAN events than I have. Have they played? Is this their first time being on a stage in this kind of environment? You know?
Actually, Split as a team have the unfortunate record of being the only team to have neither player have any LAN experience.
Okay, so that's interesting. We are getting into our first map preview now of It's Soccer Not Football, but I guess we'll stick with that point of Split not having that LAN experience. It is a daunting environment. You know,
yeah, for sure.
We've got about, I don't know, 30, 40 people in here just staring at you, and I guess for some players that's uncomfortable. You know, usually you're in the comfort of your own home in your bedroom. But we are starting this match off now between Split and Moonveil into round 1 on It's Soccer Not Football.
Yeah, and we see the first mistake coming out there, and that appears to have been Divino straight into the wall, unfortunately. Very early mistake and a good chance for Split to capitalize. We see a second mistake coming out from Epos, and we mentioned this map being 3-0. I don't think we went 3-0 in the first round to Split. This has been a very good start for them, and I would expect them to go on to you know, finish this round out with an ace.
Yeah, 100%. Like, the other thing is, like, some players play full HUD off. I think in 2v2, you've kind of got to have one player that's calling the shots, looking at that leaderboard, going, yep, they're a second and a bit behind. We can just full safe this, grab that ace, and you know, carry it forward. So the lines are not the best. They're not driving the quickest, and I'm sure Divino and Epos are both catching them up, as they are. Took 3/10 out of them, but ultimately, it's an ace for Split.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. You know, you see you got a second gap. You don't get bonus points for driving faster in this format. It's just a case of trying to cross the line ahead of everyone else. So you take it safe in that situation. So certainly we mentioned that there may be mistakes on the side of Divino, and not so much on the side of Epos, but we see them both coming out very early. That gives Split an unexpected 3-0 lead going into this match.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that. We just basically said, oh, Epos is going to win every round, and Divino maybe, you know, crashes some of them as Koza there takes flight on the reactor, does not get the bug slide. Yeah, we talked about, like, Epos is just going to be winning every round, but I guess if Divino crashes and then Epos makes a mistake, immediate ace for Split. We've seen it in the first round, which means it can and probably will happen again at some point, right?
Possibly, but unfortunately it goes the other way around as we see mistakes from both Killian and Koza, and this time it's a complete role reversal in space 2 rounds. Going to see 2 aces for each team, you know. Epos and Divino just need to go and cross the line now, which they do very comfortably. Koza and Killian 2 seconds down after their various mistakes.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Epos's pace is here. Drove a 54.8 there. Best time of a 54.0, but that was set over a month ago. So either this map is one that he hasn't practiced excessively, or he's just been doing the part maps and the offline prac, like we saw from Boz as well, who hadn't driven the map in the month and then sets a world record. So obviously he had. Divino, a little bit of a touch there, and it's once again on Epos to just try and maintain that first place. But Killian and Koza are really, really pushing him out the front right now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, great pace coming out from both the split players. They've obviously put a fair bit of focus into training these maps, into making sure that they can be competitive. And it's showing some rewards so far. You know, we've seen a mistake from Divino. Epos isn't exactly miles in front. You know, a mistake here, and it's potential for another ace, honestly, as we head into this tricky Ice 360. And yeah, Epos suddenly pulled out a half-a-second gap.
Ooh, bit close
very
there.
tight on the finish, but gets away with it. I see a little smirk from him on stage in response to that, but
yeah, this is kind of what we thought would happen, right? Epos winning the rounds. Divino has made a mistake. Obviously, it won't happen every round. Divino looks, when he's driving well, he looks fast. But yeah, those mistakes seem to be kind of creeping in, as we were saying. So that draw there, despite Koza and Killian's best efforts, I don't think they made a mistake in the round. But ultimately, they just weren't able to beat Epos on pure pace. But there goes Killian this time. And now in a situation like this, you're either looking at an ace or a victory in the round, and Split. Moonveil, despite a couple of mistakes and errors, they're just able to kind of eke out those points over time.
well, you say that, but the person leading the match, well, the round currently, is in fact Koza, as she is running away from Epos and Divino, trying to keep Split vaguely competitive in this, because if she makes a mistake here, if they get aced, the map is essentially over. But instead, we get a great ice turnaround. Koza will go into first place. Brilliant round from her. Yep. Rescues from Killian mistake. And Split Moonveil tied up at 5 points apiece.
54.3 as well. That is only 2 tenths behind their PB. So driving really strongly in rounds. I mean, if you're beating Epos in rounds, you've got to be doing something right.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So great performance from Koza there. Very much a player who... You see some players who kind of have this very sharp rise in skill level, maybe the likes of Jadon and Josh or Epos, you know, a few years ago. Koza as a player, she's just kept chipping away, and just every competition, every tournament has just looked that little bit better, and is now reaching a seriously impressive level. Sadly, not so much this round, going to be a bit further behind, so it's going to be on Killian to try and reduce the points loss. But he is up there though, challenging Divino up that fight for second and third, looking very close. Killian clips the outside dirt, drops about a 10th behind because of that. Going to need to rely on a mistake on 360 here to keep them in this map. And it's a mistake coming out from Killian. Slides out a little bit. Koza chasing Divino across the line, less than a 10th between them, but that does give Moonveil the ace. 2 points away from map win.
Yep, ace match point for Moonveil. Epos there pulling out the best time that we've seen so far. I think 54.1, only 3 tenths off world record, and a smidge away from his own personal best on the map. We do see Killian making a mistake on the first drift as well, so it hasn't started as they would have wanted to for Split. Koza with a touch on the outside. I was going to say Koza had it all to do, but then a mistake followed as well. So Moonveil move into that ace formation, but there's still plenty of the map left. Koza, though, the mistakes just continue to compound, and Divino and Epos continue to pull away here.
This is the kind of round where that competitive experience, that composure can come into it a bit, you know. Epos obviously has played so much. Divino, fairly experienced as well, and you see they get into this situation where it's just, you know, we just need a victory to go and win the map, and a Split fall apart. It's unfortunate to see, but you can't criticize Moonveil. They have done a great job in this latter half of the map, and with a 53.8 coming out there.
That's a banger time. That's 200s away from Boz, who set that time just an hour ago. So had Boz not had Epos played on stage first, that would have been world record an hour ago. And Epos always looks disappointed with himself that he hasn't managed to beat Boz there. But yeah, I'm sure it's in his locker. Moonveil do go 1-0 up in the series as we were potentially expecting. But Split looked like they had a lot of fight in them. I mean, it was a very different feel to the first series between Boz and Jaden and Idol and Louis. Because yeah, it just wasn't a washout, was it? Like Split looked like they have some kicking and screaming in them.
Yeah, you know, after 4 rounds back map, we were entirely tied up. We were on 5-5.
We were.
It could still have gone either way, but it was Moonveil who were able to get their act together, who were able to hold it together, and 2 aces in a row were enough to wrap it up. But I think Split can feel buoyed from their performance there, and it's certainly a good look heading into any lower bracket matches they may have to play if they can't pull off a bit of a miracle here up against Moonveil.
What I will say is that obviously Moonveil, coming in as the lower seeded team, have won on Split's pick now, and now they get back-to-back picks for themselves. We move on to a Flower of the Ground, where you would expect, I mean, Epos has the world record here, so I feel like the pace from Epos is going to be exactly what we expect from every time we see him play in a tournament, which is just like times within 2/10, 1/10 of world record. That's the standard that he's set in previous tournaments, and what we come to expect from him now.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at this track as being one where I'd expect to see a few less mistakes, but it's not really what we saw in the last match. So was that one a blip, or are we going to see some really close rounds here? Well, for now, everyone all separated by just 1/10 until a mistake comes out from one of Split players, and Divino falls behind a bit as well, so it's still relatively close, about half a second covering the entire field. Koza chasing down Epos now, heading into this outside dirt. This is something that Epos is very well known for, but great line from Koza as well. Keeps the gap down to about a 10th. Not giving Epos as much leeway as he'd probably expect.
Yeah, Koza's driving a great round at the moment. Epos has world record 59.7, and Koza's PB is 4/10 behind. So the fact he's keeping up with Epos here is pretty incredible. Epos, though, with a better exit, does pull out a gap slightly, but Koza is just preventing that ace at the moment. Divino, I think, has maybe made a slight mistake. Killian gets through. It's a great round from all players within 3/10 of each other, secures that draw. So Split there, driving a properly good round to actually stem the bleeding. And obviously Epos out front, but Koza and Killian were right there with them.
Yeah, and the gap wasn't as much as you'd perhaps expect. You know, I'd see the line of players and go, well, Epos probably win by, you know, maybe half a second, not 0.1 or 0.2, as we saw there admittedly. I think there's a small mistake from Epos at the very end, but still enough to pick up first place. For now, it is Divino leading the way. Gonna have to rely on hopefully a little bit more consistency here. Can they get a good round under their belt?
Yeah, I mean, Killian is pushing hard. That was a great turn there. Doesn't quite get the outside dirt, although Divino with a small clip moves Killian into second place here. Here comes Epos once again, carries the speed through Killian. Right behind, though, and into the wall from Killian. Koza's still in contention. Just needs to get Divino here, but Divino pulling out a little bit of a gap. Koza full inside, loses a bit of speed. Epos has disappeared, so I think we're going to ignore that for the time being, and I'm not sure that this round ultimately will end up counting. Seems to be some kind of technical error there has gone on, so
yep.
We'll go back to us for a minute and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunate technical pause there. Looked like something happened with Epos's computer. I'm not quite sure yet, but yeah, I think Split can be quite happy with how they're playing so far.
For sure.
You know, if I was one of the lower bracket teams, most likely look like Damp, who are likely to play them next, I'd be a little concerned.
I mean, ultimately, they were the top performing team in Qualifier 2, which, as everyone knows, wasn't as stacked as Qualifier 1, but still to like have that performance in Qualifier 2 and kind of beat the rest of the field that hadn't already gone through is seriously impressive from them. So they come in as seed 2, despite kind of qualifying in 5th position. But I don't think they look like they can maybe win the match, but they can really kind of put in a good performance for them.
Yep, and we are back underway. Looks like the connection issue has been fixed. So, Moonveil, unfortunate to lose that round there. Tech issues happen, and not much we can do about it afterwards. But for now, we get back underway with the match, and Moonveil quick to make amends. Divino and Epos up in front, although Koza and Killian very nearby.
Yeah, great round so far. Divino pushing that inside and gets a good line from it as well. Carries the speed through, does end up in front, although Epos pushes through. But what a round we're seeing so far. Epos in the lead. Koza, Killian, and Divino trading places. Koza has slightly more speed, although
no
gets
slide.
the no slide on the inside. It could be an ace here. Koza has to really push this now to get in front of Divino. It still looks like it's going to be a victory in this round for Moonveil, but we'll see what Koza can do. Full sends it. Does he have the speed? Just, clips the outside, and it's going to be an ace for Moonveil. Koza was pushing as hard as he possibly could and looked set to get that position. Ultimately, it was in vain.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that crash there for Koza, but that's one of those crashes you've almost got to respect it. You know, she had to push there or it was going to be an ace. If she crashed, you know, it's exactly the same as not going for it and not trying to push in terms of the actual result. So, didn't work out that time, but this round looking significantly better for Split as we see mistakes from both Divino and Epos, dropping them down about half a second, maybe even more behind. Yeah, 8 tenths down for Epos, so decent chance of a split ace. They just need to hold it together, keep it nice and tidy.
Yeah, the counter ace would be huge here, would put the match on 5-5, and from there it feels really open, you know. If Divino and Epos continue to make mistakes, then Split could actually capitalize at that and even get a map win on the board, and that would be big for them, given that this is Moonveil's map pick. It seems like they're still holding it. Divino is just a couple of tenths behind. Can he push it and get in front? Koza,
I think he can.
I think he can. It's tight at the line, but Divino full sends the end there. Still victory for Split, but Moonveil getting 1 point on the board, and the deficit now is 2 points.
Yeah, the swing that Divino managed to kind of save there is quite important. That would have been 5-5, that would have been tied up there, but instead, you know, it's 6-4. It can go either way still at this point as we see Killian and Epos up in front, scrapping away. Divino further behind this time. Going to be trickier to pull some heroics from there, but Epos at least looking strong for Moonveil. Looking like they've got a decent chance of picking up a round win here.
Yeah, Epos already into a lead and looks particularly strong in the second half of the map as well over this grass reactor. Does seem to pull out a bit of a gap and just carry the speed through. Killian within touching distance. If Epos makes a mistake, it could be an ace for Split, which would be huge for them, would put them in the lead, but Epos right now driving absolutely faultlessly. The time should be a good one. Killian is about half a second back right now and is driving a great round. Just still not within touching distance. Epos gets to the finish line first, 1 minute, 0.1, 4 tenths, 3.5 tenths off world record. So Epos, solid pace. Split trying their best to catch him. Once again though, you know, they can't get in front of Epos, and even with Divino making that mistake, they're not making any progress in the match. They still get that draw, the deficit is still at 2 points, and now Moonveil are just 1 ace away from ultimately taking the second map.
And as they end up in a situation of track point, Koza unfortunately crumbles, makes a very early mistake. So that means it's all on Killian to try and deny the ace, to try and give Split a chance on this map. But for now, Divino and Epos, 1 and 2 between them. Killian is going to need a very good end here if he wants to be able to catch up, if he wants to be able to get past Divino or Epos here. The Divino has a slightly different line, it looks like, kind of going for, I think possibly a regrip.
It's a regrip, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Doesn't seem to have made a massive difference, but for now he is still ahead, gets a slightly better exit out of that corner. 2 turns to go, just for 1 now, heading into the finish. Everyone survives the chicane. We are through. Great times from both of Moonveil players. They hold it together, and once again, it's a score of 10-5.
Yeah, one of the best rounds we've seen from Divino. Epos setting a time there just shy of world record. I think that was a sub-minute there, so winning the rounds now more consistently. We saw maybe a couple of mistakes at the start from Epos, but now seems to be kind of finding his groove, finding his rhythm, and is getting those round wins. So, yeah, I would definitely say that Moonveil now are fully in control of the match. They're 2-0 up. They're on their pick again. Split, despite fighting and driving really solid rounds, they're just not quite able to find that level of pace that Epos is able to put up right now.
Yeah, it's just it feels like when we first go onto the map, Moonveil are looking a little bit shaky. But as the match goes on, it feels like Moonveil get more comfortable and Split get less comfortable.
Yeah.
And Split, who had previously, maybe driven fairly consistently at the start of the map, suddenly end up, making more mistakes and not being able to capitalize on any errors. And Moonveil, it's kind of, we've had a 5-5 scoreline.
Yeah.
Or not quite 5-5, some very similar to that.
Yeah.
End up as a Moonveil victory basically twice in a row. As we head on to Wildfire. This is going to be an interesting track because, we've seen a fair number of inconsistencies from both teams, and this is a map that definitely causes more inconsistencies than most, it has to be said.
Yeah, interestingly, Divino actually second on the online leaderboard here, set a 56.7 2 days ago. He's literally within 100th of the world record, so this might be a strong map for Divino here.
I think that might... No, that wasn't Divino, that was Koza into the wall instantly. I thought you'd done the first major cast curse of the event, but it has not happened yet. And instead, it is Epos and Divino running away with it at the start of this map. I kind of saying before, they haven't always looked comfortable on round one, but this time, it's kind of a complete opposite. We've seen a mistake from Koza as soon as the match began, and one from Killian a few turns later. This should be a very easy 8 for Epos and Divino. All they have to do is kind of hold it together through this trickier section of the map. The biggest place we're likely to see mistakes is this jump here. We've seen a lot of people falter to it in the qualifying, not this time.
Yeah, Killian 2 seconds back. Epos and Divino know that they can safe it. They still look like they're driving pretty rapidly, to be fair. Epos 56.9, 2/10 off world record. Epos just has no chill. Like there is no safe. There is just I drive very fast.
Killian with an untraditional finishing technique there. It's one thing to head through it backwards. It's another thing to head through it upside down. To do both at the same time is quite impressive. Anyway, we get underway with round 2 here. For the first time, Moonveil have taken an early lead in a map. Will they be able to continue pumping out the aces? And will Koza and Killian start to look a little more comfortable? We see a first mistake come out. That is Divino clipping the wall. It's not going to be the biggest time loss, but it's going to set them back far more than I thought, actually. To 1.4 seconds down, we then see a mistake from Killian. So it is Epos Koza at the front, Killian Divino at the back.
Yeah, Koza, despite driving consistently and driving, reasonably fast on the grand scheme of things, just can't seem to keep up with Epos. That seems to be the dynamic here. Like, once Epos is in the lead, he's not giving it up. Like, Divino can crash behind, and ultimately this round looks like it's set to end in a draw. Epos just is doing Epos things, and nobody can touch him.
Yeah, assuming there's no mistakes here, and okay. I was going to say no mistakes from Epos here, and instead we get a mistake from Split.
Oh, it's an ace.
It is an ace. We see both Split players fail the finish here, and Divino doesn't, so that is an unexpected ace for Moonveil. Move 6-0 up, and potentially only 2 more rounds away from qualifying to the semi-final.
Yeah, that was kind of gifted to Moonveil there from Split. They had the draw secured. Divino was quite far back, and Epos didn't really look like he was within touching distance. So, yeah, a bit of a cheap one to give away there. Ultimately, it wouldn't have got them any further in the match, but that 1 point on the board could have given them a little bit of confidence going forwards. But this round, looking like a similar story. It's Divino in the lead, this time with Epos just behind. Koza and Killian within touching distance, but they're not catching at a rate of knots as they need to be here.
Yeah, and we see Koza fall further behind there. An unfortunate mistake coming out from her. Drops her about 4 seconds down, so it is just Epos and Divino. First and second, they made it over the jump. They can just keep it neat and tidy heading through this final section. It should be alright, but Killian has gone on one hell of a run. It's going to come down to a finish.
Wow.
And Killian rescues a draw by 10 thousandths of a second. What a finish from the 3 of them there.
Yeah, great time from Killian within 2/10 of his PB. Epos only 100th behind, so close at the finish. I think Davigno was equally close, but just clipped the finish on the end there. So gets that draw, avoids the ace. We're still on match point, so an ace from Moonveil here would still secure it, but it just gives Split a little bit of breathing room. We haven't seen that many mistakes from both Moonveil players in a round so far. We've seen a couple from Davigno, but Epos has just been driving flawlessly. If we get a mistake from both of them, however unlikely it might seem, then Split suddenly may find themselves on 7-4 here.
I think, unfortunately, by the time you finish making that point, we have seen 2 mistakes, and they're both from Split. Koza, she doesn't seem to be having a great time with this first uphill dirt. Look, a few mistakes have been made there. Killian fallen behind as well now. So this should now be a victory lap for Epos and Davigno. They've got a second to spare. Plenty of time. Might even be growing further if we see another Koza respawn from behind. Epos and Davigno have looked a little dodgy at moments, but they're gonna not get the ace.
Okay, one more round.
One more round. We'll do it again.
We're entertainers. Roll it back. We're entertainers. We're entertaining,
yeah.
right? We don't want it to be over yet. Why would we want that?
No, I never said I wanted it to be over. I was just saying what I was saying on the screen until Davigno slowed down a lot. Yeah, unfortunate clip there from Davigno on the ending. I reckon that won't be the last time we see that realistically. It's a tricky ending jump, hard to line up. I mean, we saw it before from one of the Split players in a previous round, so slightly caught up by that, but they have 8 points to play with here. Davigno falls behind, but Epos still in first, and all Moonveil need is one player in the top 2 positions.
Yeah.
Some point in the next 2 rounds.
Yep. Split need to ace here. Epos is in front and driving exceptionally once again. Koza, try as she might, just cannot get the perfect lines that Epos is driving in front. I mean, Epos had a couple of mistakes right at the start, but has definitely warmed up. And, you know, if we want to compare the best players in this tournament at the moment, Epos versus Boz, Epos is looking just as good. But that is all she wrote here. Moonveil are victorious 3-0 over Split. Seed 7 beats Seed 2 and advances to that upper bracket semi-final.
Yeah, it might technically be an upset in terms of seeds, but in terms of a caliber of player and how the bracket was realistically going to be laid out, this has kind of gone as expected. So, yeah, decent match throw from Split. I'd be intrigued to see what they can do in the rest of this tournament.
Yeah, I think if you're kind of seeing how far they can progress in the bracket, if you just compare the performances of Split versus Retirement Home, it was difficult to judge Retirement Home just because Boz and Jaden just looked exceptional. So I would say their match performance, ultimately, they got more points, they looked in the rounds more, if you know what I mean. So maybe Split versus Retirement Home, if that match comes to fruition, would be one that would favour Split. We'll have to see. There's so many unknowns in this bracket still. We've only seen 2 matches. We've only seen 4 teams out of a total of 8. But I'm going to leave the rest of this dissection down to the analyst panel waiting over in the far side there. I'm going to give them a wave. Hey, guys. I'm going to throw to you now. You ready? 3, 2, 1, catch.
Okay, they've caught it at the very least. All right, so with that, the opening round is done with Moonveil picking up a 3-0 victory. You all called it a 3-0.
Yeah, got my prediction right. I'm happy with
that. But it was a lot closer than the scoreline really showed, because the first two rounds at the very least, that could have went either way. It's just Wildfire's just a bit too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, on the football map that I won't say the full name of. Yeah, for a minute there, I thought it was going to be significantly closer. Not just on that map, but I thought they might pick up a map further down the line. Yeah, because I think maybe Davigno and Epos weren't quite into the game just yet. But then, yeah, after that map, it was pretty dominant.
Yeah, for a second, it looked like we might actually get to see a 4th map. Which,
nah.
I mean, crazy. I'm unconvinced that we have the technology actually to go more than 3 maps in a match at the moment.
I don't think we've even seen 2 of the maps on mainstream.
No.
We are still yet to see Perfect Blue peak.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Those tend to be the map 4 and 5 picks. Like, that's just what we've seen so far. And it seems to be Wildfire being that map pick that's sort of catching teams out and letting the racers like Epos and Bars just sort of storm ahead and dominate the games.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's maybe scary for a lot of the other teams in this tournament is watching players like Epos and Boz. The longer they play in the tournament, the more matches they play on these tracks as well. Look, we're not going to make any judgments about how trained either player was coming into this, but as they get the stage experience, as they play the maps more and that, you're going to see the top players get more and more comfortable on those as well. The rounds are going to get more and more consistent as well, and that's going to start to become very scary for teams going up against them.
Especially considering we still haven't seen Perfect Blue and Peak yet.
Yeah.
Like, the players might not be just up to speed on that just a little bit yet. But if we're going to see a map 4 or a map 5, we may see it in the lower bracket. We can bring that up for you now. We get the full bracket rundown. We're still yet to see the results of Holes and looks like Damp, but Geese Can't Fly in Evo, about what we expected in the upper bracket game. Yeah. And then in the lower bracket, Retirement Home and Good Focus.
Yeah, the two good focus teams against each other.
Yeah,
good focus,
and good focus with beard.
Yeah, yeah, old focus. Yeah.
Good focus versus unfocused.
Yeah.
That's the battle of which team can be a little bit more focused. It's going to be interesting. I think the first round matches, as you said, I don't think there's been any surprises. There's been no upsets at that point. Frankly, I think I'd be shocked to see any of the teams currently in the lower bracket managing to make a run past any of the teams that are currently still in the upper bracket. Again, I think part of that just comes down to a lot of the teams that I see still in the upper bracket, I'm expecting to get better and better. And I mean, it's true for the teams in the lower bracket as well. I just don't think they're going to be improving at the same rate as those teams that are still in the upper bracket. So even if they run into them again later in the lower bracket, it's going to be very difficult to overcome them. With that said, I mean, that's part of what makes it exciting, right? There is the possibility that one of these teams could surprise us. There is the possibility that one of these teams could go deep in the lower bracket and make a run. I'd just be surprised and delighted to see it.
Yeah, I will say Split did look good in that game,
Yes,
though. And
yeah.
Kozza especially, like, she pushed Epos to his limits through a lot of rounds in that game.
Yeah.
It's just that little bit of pace that Epos has over the rest of the competition that, like, dragged them over the edge in that game.
Yeah, I think what made the difference was is that Epos was doing that pace and looked comfortable, and you could tell that Split were having to push to keep up, and that is ultimately what forced all of the errors.
Yeah, and if Epos can keep that pace going, like, throughout the rest of today and tomorrow's finals day, if they make it there, they're going to be difficult to stop. Like, it's probably like we expect to see them and Geese Can't Fly to crash at some point.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Epos picking up what would have been a world record if Boz hadn't got there first. So yeah, I think it's very likely to come down to those two, a battle of wits between them.
I want it. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be so fun when it happens. I think it is inevitable at some point in this bracket, whether it happens, in the upper bracket finals or it happens somewhere else, which I suppose would just be the grand finals at that point, rather than making a run at that point. It feels likely that we're going to see those two teams come
We never know, though. Geese Can Fly might make a mistake in this upper bracket first game. Like, they might slip up. They might fall down to the lower brackets.
might be washed and just hiding it really well.
Exactly. Like, anything can still happen. We are still early in the tournament. No team eliminated just yet. And it's just a case of keeping the spirits high if you did fall in that first game. Because, again, those matches were close. Other than the Geese Can't Fly game, that was that was a massacre. But like, other than like, they're gonna keep their high spirits anyway. Like, and as long as like no one's like lost that mental game, which is what we was talking about with Davino, right? Like the mental game was the key focus there, and they seemed to keep that up during that game, which just allowed Epos to storm ahead. Like, if you can keep that mental game going up, you're in good standards still. It just then comes down to raw pace.
Yeah, I think of the two, of Geese Can Fly and Moonveil, I think of the two, it's going to come down to Davino and whether he can keep that mental game going. Because Boz and Jaden looked pretty secure, to be honest. So we'll see. Yeah.
Very interested to see how this bracket plays up. We do have a short break for you. When we come back, we're in the next round of games.
Woo!
We're done with the opening round. So yeah, when we come back, it was match 3.